Hey everyone, welcome back to Curb. Today I'm coming to you with one of our favorite river animals, the blue crab. And this is actually a crustacean, and we know that because crustaceans have hard outer shells. They don't have any bones inside their body. And that hard shell is actually what supports, their legs and everything. So they're a lot different than us, but really cool animals. We got lots of crabs here in the river. We got a lot of blue crabs, which I'm just showing you now, but we also get a lot of smaller crabs like mud crabs and fiddler crabs, especially out in our marsh. But the blue crab, the one we have here is probably about kind of middle size for what you would see out here in the river. They can actually get to be about 9 inches wide from tip to tip of their shell, and they keep growing by molting. So when crabs are small, they eventually get to be too big for their shell, and they will actually just pop out and leave that shell behind. And we get a lot of times when kids find these crab molts on the beach and say, oh, is this a dead crab? No, it's actually a blue crab demolted, and that crab's still out there in the river somewhere, continuing to grow. Now this crab, when we got it, I think was about that big, so it was very small, but you can see how much it has grown over time. And they will just keep growing and growing. They can live for about 3 years on average. I think we've had this crab for about a year now. But I'm going to actually try to get them out here and see if we can get a better look. So we're going to do this carefully. We have a net for this because we don't want to get pinched. Crabs, of course, have claws, and they're used really for protection and also handling food. Alright, so there we go. We got our crab here, very feisty crab. But we can look at the crab and look underneath its shell, and there's a little shape on there. It might be a little tough to see in the camera there, but we can tell if it's a male or female by looking under their shell. So if it's a male, they have a rocket ship sort of shape, and if it's a female, it looks more like a triangle. So we can see this one here is actually a male because it has that pointy kind of rocket ship, but that's how you can tell if it's a male or female. It gets a little tough when they're very small to see the difference, but once they're large like this, we can tell easily. You can see some other things on the crab here. You see those spikes on the shell and the claws. They're of course helping with protection from predators. And again, those very strong claws there, they will actually handle food with that, and of course for protection. They're not great hunters. They will usually scavenge at the bottom of the river. I'll just put them back down into the water here for dead stuff. But they will also hunt smaller things like small crustaceans, shrimp, even things like clams, mussels, things like that. They can get fish too, but they're like I said, not great hunters. But that is our blue crab there, and we see many here. It's probably one of our top catches throughout the year for seining, usually in like top 3 each season. We start catching them typically around May, and then they go on through the whole summer. Over the winter, they kind of bury themselves down into the mud, and you really don't see any then. We've tried seining in the winter, but usually we don't catch any crabs during that time of the year. The crabs will mate pretty much any time from May through October. They like the brackish waters, so we see them here. You can see them in places like the Chesapeake Bay. You'll hear about the crabs there. Great food source down there if you like eating crabs. Some people eat soft shell crabs too. Basically that means when the crabs molt before they get that hard shell back, they actually are very soft. And that's problems for them because predators can really get to them at that point. So they have to be really careful. But you can eat them when they're soft shell crab and eat the whole thing. You don't have to de-shell them. So that's pretty cool. And then also with these crabs, we will see them anywhere along our shoreline, right where we are here. We also see them in our marsh too, in the protected area. They are decent swimmers. You wouldn't think of a crab being a swimmer, but they kind of swim kind of like a weird sort of side swim, not like a fish. But they do have swimmerettes on the back there, which are their paddles, and that kind of helps them when they are out into the water there. They do face predators, things like larger fish, striped bass, things like that can eat the crabs. Also shorebirds, you can see like herons and things like that, especially when they're smaller, getting these crabs. So really cool. But that is pretty much all I have to say about our crab. But what I want to show you all is actually our crab feeding. Because we do feed our crabs here kind of like a seafood mix, a frozen mix of like oysters, clams, things like that. So I'm going to take the camera over to the tank and we're going to watch them eat, and then we'll be right back. You can see this crab's already gotten in the meal. We usually feed a seafood mix to the crabs, like a mix of oysters, mussels, shrimp, something like that. But it's frozen, and we put them in ice cubes and then drop them in, and they eventually will get them. They eat similar stuff out in the wild. They could also eat fish as well. They're not great hunters, so they will tend to scavenge. But you can see feasting away on this seafood mix. And they have mouth parts, which we'll try to kind of get in on here, which you can see moving real quickly there. That's what they use to grind up the food and make it into smaller bits so they can swallow it. But that is our blue crab feasting away there. So that was our blue crab eating. Pretty cool, right? But we feed these crabs about 3 days a week. They really don't need any more than that. It's a good amount of food for them. But they're always ready to go, and whenever we get that food, they come up to the top of the tank and grab it. So cool to watch, and especially with those mouth parts, and they grind everything up there. But that's the blue crab. So check out our website. We have more information there about all of our animals and some more Hudson River background. And we have a lot of resources for teachers too on our resource page. But for now, that's all we're going to say for our crab, and we hope to see you soon. They snatched that up. There's a little bit right there in front of him. He's going to find it. There he goes. And there he starts eating it. You can see all those mouth parts there, which just kind of grind everything up. I guess he wasn't satisfied with that piece. And you can see he's snatching up the food that we have there. That's actually our seafood mix that we feed them. He just went and grabbed one little tiny piece and seemed to have enough there.